There will never be a year like 2004 in football again, and I'm going to tell you why. The date is April 25th, 2004, and Arsenal lift the Premier League title. But this Premier League campaign is not just your average Premier League title winning season. This was Arsenal's Invincible season. Under Arsene Wenger, this team was already a force. In the 6 seasons prior, they had won the league twice and finished runners-up the other 4 times. Now, what you may not know was Arsene Wenger had actually predicted an undefeated season 2 years prior. Now, of course, this was a little premature as Arsenal went on to lose the title by 5 points to United the next season, recording 6 defeats in the process. But the next season, his team proved him right. 26 wins, 12 draws, 0 losses. It hadn't been done since 1889 when Preston North End went 27 games undefeated, and has never been repeated after. Bergkamp, Henry, Vieira, Gilberto Silva, Robert Pires, Ashley Cole. This team was basically unplayable, and it pretty much broke the Premier League. There have been only 2 other teams to get anywhere close to this achievement. Mourinho's 04-05 Chelsea and Klopp's 18-19 Liverpool, who both recorded only 1 loss in their respective seasons, with Liverpool still losing that season by 1 point to City, which is pretty crazy. But you know what else is pretty crazy? 820 kilometers away, in Germany, a team wearing green, not red, was lifting not only the Bundesliga title, but also the DFB Pokal. Werder Bremen had just won the double with a rather unassuming squad. I mean, compared to Bayern's 04 squad, Michael Ballack, Oliver Kahn, Zé Roberto, Claudio Pizarro, Bastian Schweinsteiger, just to name a few, Werder Bremen had Ailton, a slightly overweight, bang average striker, until the 03-04 season, where he proceeds to have one of the most random breakout seasons ever, scoring 28 in 33 appearances, including a wonderful strike to beat Bayern and wrap up the title with 2 games in hand. After this season, the Brazilian striker would never come close to replicating this form, with his best season recording only half the strike rate. Just to remind you though, in the past 25 seasons, Bayern have won the Bundesliga title 18 times, including a run of 11 titles in a row, only ended last season by Leverkusen. This makes Werder Bremen's surprise double even more surprising. So, we've got both the Premier League and the Bundesliga breaking. What about Spain? In La Liga, Valencia finishes above Barcelona to be crowned as champions of Spain. Now, this one isn't that crazy because Valencia also won the league in 2002, but the fact that they finished 5th the previous season, and they were competing during the time of Real Madrid's Galacticos and Barca's Dino era, Rafa Benitez's side really had no right to win La Liga. And fueled on the fumes of the weirdness of 2004, Valencia would also win the UEFA Cup, with Liverpool, Barca, and Inter all weirdly crashing out earlier in the competition, giving them a double as well. Players like Pablo Aimar, Santiago Canizares, and Mista really came to the forefront to be ingrained into the history books of Valencia. Valencia even went on to win the UEFA Super Cup against Porto. Yep, that's right, we haven't even talked about Mourinho's Porto yet. This is probably one of, if not the most impressive and narrative-defying events of the 21st century that football has to offer. Fresh off of their 2003 UEFA Cup title campaign, a talented group of players including Deco, Ricardo Carvalho, Maniche, and Paulo Ferreira, coached by a 41-year-old Mourinho, set their sights on glory in the most competitive club competition in football. Miraculously and infamously, they were able to edge Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United by 1 goal in aggregate in a last-minute equalizer against the club at Old Trafford. And then somehow they avoided matchups with Juve, AC Milan, Real Madrid, and Chelsea because Monaco and Deportivo had both eliminated them in earlier rounds, almost as if the footballing gods had parted the Champions League sea for them. And Porto easily dispatched Monaco 3-0 in the final as if it were nothing. Porto remains the last team outside the top 5 leagues to win the Champions League and are sandwiched in between a European giant pie. Although I would consider them a European giant for this and the fact that they have 2 Champions Leagues. But speaking of giants in Europe, you know what team doesn't naturally come to mind? The Greeks. But remember, it was 2004, and that means left was right and up was down. Portugal in Portugal with a golden generation, with 3 players from that Porto winning side, a Figo at the peak of his powers, and a 19-year-old Ronaldo. The stage was set for them to win their first ever national competition in front of their home crowd. Greece had only ever qualified for 1 Euro before and had finished last in their group on 1 point in that campaign. But this was no matter to them. They defeated Portugal in a shock win in their opening match, knocked out Zidane and Thierry Henry's France in the quarterfinals, and then beat Portugal again at home in the final in a scrappy 1-0 win to lift the European trophy. With largely unknown striker Angelos Christeas scoring the 2 vital goals against France and Portugal, he was the unlikely hero. Weirdly enough, he was also part of the Werder Bremen team that won the double that year. Truly a Ballon d'Or worthy candidate for him, although he only scored 9 goals across all competitions. Much like his teammate Ailton, he faded into obscurity after this season, likely unable to live up to the same expectations and heights that he had reached. I mean, at this point, what more can you ask for? We've got upsets in La Liga, Germany, an improbable season in England, upsets in the Champions League and the European Championship. Surely that was all, right? Wrong. We also had Tunisia winning the AFCON to beat Senegal, Nigeria, and Morocco to lift their first ever cup. Then we have Real Zaragoza beating Real Madrid's Galacticos in the Copa del Rey final with a young David Villa and 10 men. Celta Vigo getting relegated despite also playing in the Champions League that season. Millwall reaching the FA Cup final. Napoli getting relegated to Serie C. Middlesbrough winning the Carling Cup. And Henry finishing in 4th place in the Ballon d'Or rankings instead of winning it, despite scoring 39 and assisting 15 in 51 appearances during Arsenal's unbeaten title, with Shevchenko winning instead, getting the award for 29 goals and 4 assists in 44 appearances. Day-late robbery. This season truly broke the matrix, and unfortunately, I don't think there will ever be a season like the 03-04 one again. The landscape has changed dramatically. Financial polarization between the richest clubs and the leagues continues to grow, and financial fair play rules put in place to even the playing fields seem to be consistently broken and ignored. 2004 feels like a relic from a different age, an age where money didn't completely suffocate possibility, where tactical rigidity hadn't ironed out the beautiful room for chaotic surprise. It remains a benchmark for the bizarre, a high watermark for the underdog, forever etched into the books of the beautiful game as the year logic took a holiday.